Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, reserving the right to object. And with all the respect I can muster, this bill has more red flags than the Chinese embassy. I'm objecting despite my great admiration for the senior senator from Illinois for three reasons. The first reason I can best explain by telling you a story. An oil man was talking to his banker one day. And the banker said, "Mr. Oil Man, you know, the bank loaned you $1 million to rework all your old oil wells, and they went dry." And the oil man said, "Could have been worse." And then the banker said to the oil man, the banker said, "Mr. Oil Man, we loaned you a second $1 million to drill brand new wells, and they all went dry. What do you say about that?" And the oil man said, "Could have been worse." And then the banker said to the oil man, "Our bank loaned you a third $1 million to buy new drilling equipment, and it all broke down. What do you say about that?" And the oil man said, "It could have been worse." The banker now is very upset. He said, "What do you mean it could have been worse? We loaned you $3 million and you lost all of it. What do you mean it could have been worse?" And the oil man said, "It could have been my money." The cost of this bill is $1 billion. That's 9 zeros. $1 billion. If I started counting to 1 billion right now, one numeral a second, I wouldn't finish until 2051. I'd be dead as a doornail. I wouldn't make it. 1 billion is a lot. We toss around 1 billion these days like it was a nickel. 1 billion seconds ago, it was 1986. Ronald Reagan was president. That's how much 1 billion is. 1 billion hours ago, the Romans were conquering Mesopotamia. As I made the point the other day on the Senate floor, 1 billion, that was 1 billion minutes ago. 1 billion hours ago, Neanderthals were roaming the earth. 1 billion is a lot. We have a $22 trillion deficit. That's 12 zeros. We got to pay this money back. I'm running out of space, and we're probably going to run out of digits if we keep borrowing. So my first concern is the money. Now, if we had not given any money to our colleagues at the state level, that would be one thing. But as my good friend knows, we gave 2 years ago, we gave states $380 million to combat election fraud. They haven't even spent it all yet. They haven't even spent it all yet. So yes, I have concerns about the money. Point 2. We did have problems in 2016, and I joined the senior senator in wanting to do everything we possibly can to keep it from happening again. And we did in 2018. We all had a classified briefing down in our room. I don't know the particular name of it, but it's in the visitor center. It's classified. You have to leave your phone and your iPad outside. We had the Director of National Intelligence there. We had the FBI Director. I think we had every general in the Western Hemisphere, and we went over the 2018 elections. They went off without a hitch. They went off without a hitch. Have you read any articles about us having problems in 2018 like we had in 2016? No. Do you think if we had problems in 2018 that the members of our press would have pounced on it like a ninja? Yes. But you haven't seen those articles. Because 2018 went off without a hitch, in part because we gave the states $380 million to solve the problem. And they haven't spent it all. So if a reasonable person would wonder why we want to give them another $1 billion of American taxpayer money at this juncture. We also asked the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI, and every general who was there, are you ready for 2020? Every single one of them said, categorically, unequivocally, unconditionally, yes. And every single senator, both my Republican friends and my Democratic friends, walked out of that classified hearing impressed. The third reason I regretfully have to object to this bill, and I'm not ascribing this intention to the senator from Illinois. I am not. But there are some of my friends on Capitol Hill who would like nothing better than to take over elections in America, to have our election system federalized. Right now, we don't have one election system. We have 50 election systems. Every state runs its elections its own way, usually by the Secretary of State. Now, I believe that's a matter of federalism. I don't see anywhere in the United States Constitution or in the Federalist Papers where it says the United States government ought to be running elections for states. Number two, our states do a great job. Yeah, we had a lot of activity on Facebook and Google and other aspects of social media, but we haven't heard one allegation, or at least any proof of an allegation that any votes were stolen in 2016, much less 2018, or changed. And that's because our secretaries of state did a good job. It's also safer to have every secretary of state and every state in charge of its own election system. Because if a foreign government wants to hack your systems, they've got to go to 50 different states. They've got to do it 50 times. If we nationalize, yet again, give the federal government more power, if we nationalize elections, all a foreign national has to do is hack one system. Now, again, I am not ascribing this motive or this intent to my good friend from Illinois. I am not. But there are some who would like nothing better than to nationalize state elections and have them run by the federal government. And then the federal government, they could tell the states what to do, what kind of machines to use, whether you need paper ballots, how to order the ballots, what kind of, if you have electric machines where you walk into a booth, what kind of color of the curtain you'd have to have. And then you'd have a federal agency get involved, and they'd start promulgating regulations. And before you know it, casting a vote would be like building a bridge. And it is a matter of federalism, Mr. President. Now, those who disagree with me will say, oh, Kennedy, you're exaggerating. This bill doesn't do that. It doesn't federalize elections. Yeah, it does. You know how we federalize things around here? We get the object of the federalization hooked on the money. Those who want the federal government to run everything never go right at it. They sneak up on them. And they say, we're going to give you $380 million. And they get a little addicted. And then we're going to give you $1 billion. And they get a little more addicted. And sooner or later, they're addicted to the money. And then the federal government's got it. And that's what worries me about this bill. I'm going to offer another bill after we're done today that I hope my good friend from Illinois will at least consider supporting. This bill would require, it's not going to cost $1 billion, I can assure you, Mr. President. This bill is going to require the chief election official of every state, usually that's the Secretary of State, as the senior senator knows better than me, but it's going to require the chief election official of every state to disclose to the Election Assistance Commission the identity of any known foreign national who has physically handled ballots, machines, or has had unmonitored access to storage facilities or tabulation centers used to support elections, or unmonitored access to election-related information or communication technology. What does that really mean? That means if a foreign national at any stage of the chain of custody has access to the machine, has access to the ballot, that's got to be disclosed. Now, if you want to do something to stop foreign nationals from interfering with our elections, we don't need to spend $1 billion. We need to pass this bill.
Is there an objection?
Yes, sir, I'm getting to that. For the reasons I described, and with great respect to the senior senator from Illinois, I object.
Objections heard.